Hello everyone, my name is Stephanie Garcia and today I will be responding to ethical dilemma number 6. So today I'll be answering all 3 questions. And as for the first question, my own answer about unfair systems. If I'm a part of an unfair system, even if I didn't create it and I can't change it alone, I still think I'm responsible in some kind of way. Responsibility doesn't mean I can magically fix the whole system, but it does mean that my actions inside the system matter. For example, if I work at a company that underpays workers in other countries, I didn't design that pay structure, but I still benefit from it. My paycheck or the company's success that creates some level of moral responsibility because ignoring the injustice would mean I'm choosing comfort over fairness. On the other hand, I can't be blamed for everything that a system does since I'm not in control of all of its decisions. My ethical responsibility would come from the choices I do have, whether I speak out, whether I take small actions, or at the very least, whether I acknowledge the harm instead of pretending like it doesn't exist. So yes, I believe I'm ethically responsible, but in a limited and realistic way. On to question number 2. In The Birds of Basra, the narrator is caught inside the system of war, where choices are constrained by the violence and destruction surrounding her. I don't think most of her actions can be called fully ethical in Aristotle's sense, because they often come from fear, habit, or survival rather than virtue. But the closest she comes to an ethical choice is when she shows care for the birds. There's a passage where she says, I love the way their wings carried them out of the smoke, as if they alone remembered what it meant to be free. This moment stands out because she chooses to notice beauty and freedom in the middle of devastation. She could have been hardened by war and stopped caring altogether, but instead she directs her attention towards life, compassion, and hope. While that may seem small, it reflects a spark of ethical behavior, choosing to value life when destruction is everywhere. On to question number 3. Aristotle would probably see my assessment as partially right, but he would add more. How do I say this? He would add more to it. In John Bowen's overview of Aristotle's virtue ethics, he explains that virtue is about developing habits that hit the mean between extremes, and that virtue only counts when it comes from rational choice, not just feelings. Aristotle writes in the Ethics, he says, virtue, then, is a state that decides consisting in a mean, the mean relative to us, which is defined by reference to reason, that is, to the reason by reference to which the prudent person would define it. If I connect this to the narrator in The Birds of Basra, Aristotle would probably not call her choice about the birds fully virtuous, because she's not deliberately shaping her character through reason. She's simply reacting to war, but he might still see it as a step towards virtue, because it shows a recognition of something good in the world. In other words, I think Aristotle would disagree with me, but if I said she acted ethically, in the full sense, he would say she showed a natural inclination toward the good, but not a developed virtue. For the unfair system question, Aristotle would agree that I am at least partially responsible, because living ethically means not just avoiding bad actions, but actively cultivating virtues like justice and courage. Even if I can't fix the system, I can still exercise courage by speaking out, or justice by treating individuals fairly within the system. That aligns with his belief that virtue is practiced through our actions and whatever circumstances we are placed in. So to sum up, Yes, I am ethically responsible for being part of unfair systems, even if I didn't make them. In The Birds of Basra, the narrator doesn't make fully virtuous choices, but her attention to the birds comes closest to an ethical act. And Aristotle, through Bowen's explanation, would partially agree with me. He would see my recognition of responsibility as correct, but would argue that true virtue requires deliberate, reasoned action, not just hopeful gestures. Thank you.